and finding a shaman. Arj says he could work as an assistant, and Jeff agrees to give him a 1-week trial. As days pass, Arj proves what a reliable worker he can be. He works fast and can come up with alternate solutions for random issues on the spot. No matter what Jeff asks for, Arj is ready to do it. Jeff is extremely pleased with Arj's performance, so he hires him properly and gives him a company credit card for expenses. Now Arj can afford to stay in a motel. Sometime later, Jeff decides to inform Arj that he has a gun in the house in case of an emergency and tells him the password to the drawer. When Jeff hears that Arj has a date, he lends him a jacket and recommends an affordable restaurant. That evening, Arj and Elena are having a wonderful time together. However, when Arj sees the prices on the menu, he's horrified. It turns out this place only counts as cheap for rich guys like Jeff. Arj doesn't want to look bad in front of Elena, so they dine there anyway. When the bill comes, Elena says they should split, but Arj volunteers to pay and uses the company credit card. The next day, Jeff asks Arj about the dinner bill on the credit card. Arj apologizes and explains what happened, promising he'll pay Jeff back. However, Jeff fires him anyway. Now Arj has to leave the motel, and since he can't find any tasks on the app, he has no choice but to sell plasma. Arj ends up throwing up because he feels sick while Jeff is throwing up in a cleansing ritual. That night, Arj falls asleep at a restaurant and a waiter kicks him out. When he goes outside, he discovers that his car has been towed. Seeing Arj's life fall apart, Gabriel decides he's a lost soul who needs his help. He then appears in front of Arj, who obviously freaks out. Gabriel explains he knows everything about Arj and tells him there's a lot to live for. With just one touch, he shows Arj a vision of his future where he works as a delivery driver with awful long shifts and lives with Elena at her mother's house. Eventually, the couple gets steady jobs and moves to Texas, but their salaries are still not enough to pay for surgery for their sick dog, so they'll have to put the pet down. When they return to reality, Arj yells at Gabriel, saying that the terrible life in that vision is still not something to hope for. Gabriel explains that this isn't usually his job, so he isn't sure how to bring hope to people. Arj mentions that he wants a life like Jeff's, so Gabriel decides he must teach him that the rich life isn't as great as people say. He touches Arj and a light takes over his vision. When Arj wakes up, he's inside a car in the store's parking lot. However, it's a very fancy car and he's wearing nice clothes, so when the guard approaches him, he's much nicer and understands that falling asleep was just an accident. The car's computer asks him if he wants to go home and shows him the route. In the morning, Arj arrives at Jeff's house. While he looks around, he's approached by Jeff, who is dressed casually and says he's done with his chores. Arj asks him whose house this is and Jeff says it's Arj's. After Arj finds his own pictures around the house, Gabriel shows up to explain he's exchanged Arj's life for Jeff's. In 1 week, he'll come back to see if Arj has learned a lesson. As days pass, Arj is incredibly happy. He enjoys spending money on whatever he wants, asks Jeff to do all the chores, and having to work is just going to fancy restaurants to make a couple of decisions for the company. If something is broken in the house, Arj easily pays for it and doesn't understand when Gabriel mentions the annoyance of minor inconveniences. Eventually, Arj visits Elena, who doesn't know him in this reality. They immediately hit it off and have a date.